when two people are getting a divorce and they have children, you've got to kind of figure out what's the most important thing and have a North Star or a guiding point. And if you both can be driven by what's best for your kids, it's amazing how much stuff can happen.
Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your Divorce Survival Guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back. And now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact. Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Spring is starting to spring. Hasn't quite sprung here, but it's maybe starting to spring. I hope it is wherever you are as well. I wanted to remind you about my focused strategy sessions. If you are feeling like you need a little shot of Kate in the arm, I have my focused strategy sessions, which are just 3 sessions with me over however much time, pretty much that you need, within reason, to check in, to strategize, to create a plan, and craft difficult conversations, all the things that you need. So be sure to check out my focus strategy sessions. You can find them under the private coaching tab on my website, which is kateanthony.com. And today I have with me Liz Pharo. She's the founder of divorce.com, and she's on a mission to make the divorce process easier and less stressful. In our episode today, Liz shares how she transitioned from the tech world to create divorce.com, which is a platform designed to help people handle the paperwork, planning, and even mediation in a much more streamlined fashion. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with Liz Pharo. Liz, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us all things divorce.com.
Thanks for having me, Kate. I'm excited to be here today.
I am excited to have you. So let's just sort of start at the beginning. How did you start this enterprise and what does it do?
Okay, well, let me tell you about it. It's called divorce.com, so easy to find. I'm actually a programmer or software engineer by trade, and I've been involved in lots of different software companies throughout the years. Started kind of doing deals, kind of more business and investing after having some success in the software space, and had an opportunity to acquire a paperwork processing platform. That's always fun to say. That has done really over 1 million divorces and can file in all 50 states. And then when I acquired that, I actually got a call from the person that owned divorce.com, which was a park domain. And I was like, wow, this is super interesting. Yeah, I had been parked since the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I really felt like I could do something special with it. And so when I was in this investment, I never could really understand how some people could be served at such a low cost, and then there was nothing sort of in the middle between, call it $200 and $20,000, right? Going up to $50,000, going up to $100,000. And so there just felt like there was just this like real opportunity for disruption. Just kind of as I've gotten into the investment, I actually got divorced myself. So a lot of my own personal experience kind of informs some of the products that we need to help support our customers. So it's a kind of a real random way to get into things, but
you were already working on developing this whole platform, and then you got into your own. Then you went through your own divorce, and you were like,
yes,
oh,
yes, and so which is wild, right? Like I think that everybody expects it to be, I went through a divorce and so then I saw this need and I founded this company. That wasn't the case.
You came at it from a software side and then
Mm-hmm.
found yourself in need
That's
yourself.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. And I think that that's given me really interesting perspective on what our customers actually do need,
Uh-huh.
which is a little bit more than just paperwork, right?
Sure,
They need
sure.
to have planning tools and budgeting tools, just worksheets to sort of essentially go in and say, okay, what do I have? What do I owe? What is my life going to look like later? How are situation, how are we going to handle the kids? Those types of things, and kind of a means to get into agreement that doesn't have you fighting through the court system.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's probably the biggest aha moment I had, because I didn't know all that much about divorce really
Hmm.
when I got into this.
Right.
And I've always kind of been, I can learn whatever, right? So I'm happy to kind of
Sure,
roll up my
sure.
sleeves and learn it, and
Uh-huh.
within reason, but this is not actual rocket science or anything like that. Divorce really is, it's paperwork, so documenting an agreement, and
Hmm.
it is filing it with a court to make it legal. How do you have paperwork, or how do you have an agreement that both parties will sign, right? There's
Sure.
three different ways to kind of go about that too, right? You can just work it out. That's called a kitchen table divorce, where you
Hmm.
just sit down and, hey, we can figure it out. Then there's sort of B, which is a mediated divorce. I think of a mediator kind of as a camp counselor, if you will, that's had to have specialized training, that sort of sits down and says, hey guys, let me talk you through this, and we'll kind of, they kind of guide you through how to split up and kind of deal with your spouse. This can also be done by an actual counselor,
Yeah.
right? It can be
Sure.
done by a minister. This can be done by a friend. I mean, it does not necessarily have to be done by a certified divorce mediator, although that's what we use. And then, the other way is to really actually like use the court system to go through and fight, with being lawyered up, right? So kind of a War of the Roses divorce is what I call it, but where both parties engage legal counsel and really start to file like motions through the court system, have to respond to those. And it just seems like that heightens everybody's anxiety, doesn't really
Hmm.
accomplish anything. Well, I mean,
Right.
I guess it ultimately it does. It's just very expensive and time consuming. And I have a good friend that says there's no emotional justice in the court system. And I mean, I don't know. I think that's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Your platform sort of simplifies everything. Yes. Like it
Yes.
just takes all the emotional sort of whatever rigmarole out of it. It's just like but because every state has different laws and different requirements, how do you have this? How does your platform work to process things in all 50 states? How
So
does that
we have
work?
expertise in all 50 states and five of the Canadian provinces. So, I mean, we've built it. And it is, I mean, we know down to, Jefferson County in Alabama, the filing fee there is XYZ, and that they need to see this, and the county clerk's name is that. And like, it's
Huh.
just, I mean, we have built a huge database of specifics, down to
Wow.
like the county level. And so that, I mean, that's kind of how we do it. It's not, because divorce is not federal, there's sort of not a one size fits all. I mean, we really have just had to do like the work, and the discovery in all of the jurisdictions to be able to
Okay.
support our customers.
So when you put in where you live, it'll just sort of populate what you need.
Yes, and we ask
Mhm.
questions based on, the needs of those of the location as well. So it's a
Right.
lot of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
is generic, right? So, I mean, your name, demographic information. I mean, we've got to collect assets, we've got to collect your debts. If you've got children, that needs to be documented, sharing schedules, all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
then, certain jurisdictions want very specific information. They
Yeah.
handle documentation of whether a person's involved in the military differently. I mean, there's just kind of all kinds of little nuances. And so we just throughout the years have actually built that out.
So is this primarily if you're going to do an online divorce, right? Presumably this is uncontested. There's not a lot of negotiation happening necessarily, right? You're kind of figuring it out together primarily.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I would say we also like to say we can serve the aspirationally uncontested
Uh-huh.
couple.
Uh-huh.
Right. I'm really kind of the opinion that even if you are so sure that you have no, that y'all are all on the same page, I kind of feel like everybody could use a little bit of mediation. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just
Sure.
not, lollipops and unicorns when you're getting a divorce anyway. And so I think
Right.
kind of having a third party in there to just help guide you through it, which is
Yeah.
also, I mean, divorce, you've been through it too. I mean, it's just such an uncertain and unsettling time,
Right.
right? And so if you can just sort of have somebody guide you through that and, get down, workshop, like let's negotiate the kids out first, right? What is the best thing for the kids? So I'm a mom of four, and that's really important to me that the kids aren't used as negotiation pogs.
Mm-hmm.
Very important to me. So really try to negotiate that out first, right? So, what is best for the kids? And I think really when two people are getting a divorce and they have children, you've got to kind of figure out what's the most important thing and have a North Star or a guiding point.
Yeah.
And if you both can be driven by what's best for your kids, it's amazing how much stuff can happen when you start being guided by,
Yep.
what a lawyer that wants to bill you more of an hourly rate wants, or
Right.
protecting that last, set of china, or, or like who gets the, I don't know, sea or, I mean, that kind of stuff. Like if you're driven by that, as
Right.
opposed to what's best for your kids, then that's where things really kind of go in a bad spot. And it requires both people to kind of have that desire as well. Our mission, I guess it's worth saying at divorce.com, is like really feel like we are here to create societal change by eliminating the like time unnecessary trauma in the divorce process, the uncertainty, and a ton of the cost.
Yes. What are your thoughts on? I mean, I know that Indiana was the first so far to put in a bill, to submit a bill, however they do it, trying to eliminate no fault divorce in Indiana. And I know this is obviously going to be state by state if it happens at this point, but
Sure.
we know that that's definitely one of the priorities these days. So I'm wondering what you're seeing in that arena and what your thoughts are.
Hey, I mean, we need no fault divorce to be around to function, right? Just from my company. So of
For your
course
right.
I would,
Yeah.
yeah, of course
Hmm.
I'm concerned in watching it. Personally, I think it's bananas and asinine that anybody would even be trying to do this. And I also just feel like it's political theater.
Hmm.
And I hope it is political theater because I mean, frankly, if we've got to go back to fault-based divorce, then you're in a terrible marriage. And let's just say all things are equal. And, this isn't one of those where, we have different power between husband and wife and those types of things. But we've got to prove adultery. Like, let's just say you want to get divorced. Does somebody have to go cheat on somebody to
Right.
then get
Yeah.
divorced? And then you have to bring that up and like in the court so it becomes like public record. So then
Yep.
your kids are traumatized by it
Yep.
when
That's what
everybody is ready to kind of walk away. It's so far from what's best for the family and what's
Mhm.
best for the individuals. And
Yeah.
it's not, I don't know. I mean, I doubt that it makes anybody stay married because they've got to prove fault. I mean, I know that, historically, yes, there was
Historically, it did.
yeah, and sort
Yeah.
of pent up demand, and it did make that somewhat easier. I just have got to think that it's like the worst thing for families
Yeah.
and just people in general to have their personal lives will first spread through the court of public opinion, and
Hmm.
I mean, it's like it turns everybody into a celebrity,
Well, and it's
right?
also,
Where people are
yeah,
going through their
right.
personal lives and everything else.
Right. And so much of it is manufactured because like, well, what if somebody didn't cheat? I just want to get divorced. The idea that, first of all, you don't have to prove to anybody that you want to get married. You don't have to prove to
Good point.
anybody that you should be deserving of that marriage certificate. So why the hell should you have to prove to anybody that you are deserving of getting divorced? You're a grown up. We're grown
Right,
ups,
right, right.
right?
And
Like,
that's where it's just like, it feels like it's political theater. I think if you really like, I feel like it's a talking point that gets
mhm.
like more views. I mean,
Mm,
nobody spends extra time engaged on Facebook because they're like, oh, isn't this nice?
right,
Oh, I'm in agreement
right,
with you. Like
right,
people I mean, you've seen, I'm sure, the Social Network
ugh,
movie and all that. And like,
right.
I mean, engagement spikes when people are pissed off.
That's right. It's also power and control. I think they know that 70% of divorces are initiated by women, and they know that, women are the ones who are least happy in their marriages. And there's a whole movement afoot to control everything that we do. So I think it's whether they'll get away with it, whether it'll pass, who the hell knows. But it does, like, I mean, I brought it up to you, not just for the political aspect of it, but like just because of your business, right? Your business relies on two people who say, yeah, I think we've reached the end of the road.
Absolutely.
Now let's
Absolutely. It
be
does.
adults and move through it. Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's going to make divorce attorneys very rich.
That's
I guess
right.
more people will go into being divorce attorneys to pick up the demand, and the court
Hmm.
system will get overwhelmed with proceedings and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not being well thought out.
No. As
Yeah.
most things
Yeah.
these days are not.
Right.
So on your platform, so essentially both spouses need to be in agreement to use it.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay. So you've got two people who are like, okay, obviously this has run our course, all of that. We're in agreement that we're getting divorced. Let's do it in a low cost, like low impact way. And that's where you guys come in.
That's right. So basically, you sign up and we'll ask you a series of questions, mostly factual in nature to start, like demographics, assets, debts, those types of
Hmm.
things, property, your house, if you've got children. And then we'll start into, we need to be able to make decisions, right? So who's going to assume the debt? Who's going to take this asset? What are we going to do with the house? Are we going to sell the house? One party going to live in the house and the other party is off the mortgage. So we need to refinance the house. The house is a big thing,
One of the
especially
biggest.
with interest rates being so high right now. But really, decisions. So the deal making piece, our largest package or our fully guided package includes mediation. And so we kind of take you through, not assist you necessarily in making those decisions. We facilitate
Sure.
an environment in which you can sit down and talk with your spouse, over Zoom with a
Okay.
certified divorce mediator to help you make those decisions. And then therefore you can answer all the questions and we produce the paperwork. We send you a package and you sign it. In some cases, it needs to be notarized. I don't even know how the mix off the top of my head. But anyway, if it needs to be
Hmm.
notarized, we actually you to go get it notarized.
Okay.
And then you mail that back to us. We give you a return envelope. You may have to get a money order for the court filing fee
Hmm.
if you're not in an e-filing state. Otherwise,
Hmm.
we just collect that money electronically and either e-file it or file it, via paper proxy in those states. And all of them are different. Anyway, we do that. And sometimes the court likes you to both sign the paperwork at first. And so we send the whole thing to the court and then the whole thing comes back. I mean, there are other cases where we file an initial petition that only one party signs. We get that back, then that goes in something, then we mail that to the spouse, and the spouse signs that, then they mail it back to us, then we mail it back to
Oh
the
my God.
court.
Yeah.
So it's just it depends. Sky's blue and it's Tuesday, we do a particular step. And if it's Wednesday and we're in, Poughkeepsie, we do something else. I mean, it's just
Right.
that
Right.
it's our experience in all these locations is a huge advantage to divorce.com,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
really from a business perspective, a moat to go really compete at a national level with us is a challenge, you know,
Hmm.
because we do have that experience.
Your mailroom must look like a factory.
It does. It's upstairs from my office. I go work up there a good bit. There's some forms we have to sign. So I sign some of them for us because I'm going to always be here. No
Right.
turnover here.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
but yeah, but the mail room's upstairs and we are turning and burning lots of mail. We try to e-file where we can and,
Hmm.
you know, states adopt that.
You'll implement it.
It gives us a
Yeah.
chance to get more efficient, but
Right.
until
Yeah.
then, it's very analogous to applying for a passport online.
Which we're in the middle of doing that for my son for the UK because I was born there and I have a UK passport. We're trying to do it for my son, and the amount of stuff that we have to mail and then they have to mail back, and right, and you're like sending your most prized and important documents overseas,
Right.
and you're like, I'm gonna get it back, right?
We
Yeah.
only need copies of some of
Right.
these things, like
Yes. Yeah.
certificates
Yeah.
and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But I know I've done a online passport and put my passport in there and said, what if it gets lost in the mail? One of the funnier things we've received in the mail from one of our customers was his wedding ring.
Oh, he just put it in there. Was like,
Yeah, he didn't want it anymore.
that's great.
You
That's
can
great.
have it. I'm done with it.
Divorce is hard, no question about it. The uncertainty, the isolation, it can feel like you're drowning. But you don't have to go through this alone. There's a place where you can gather with other women going through divorce and get expert advice from professionals like me. Phoenix Rising, a divorce empowerment collective. Phoenix Rising is an ongoing group coaching program designed to walk you through some of the hardest parts of your divorce in community with other women who are going through it too. In Phoenix Rising, you get 3 live coaching sessions with me every month, plus a guest expert call with a top industry professional every month. You'll learn exactly what to do, when and how, but more importantly, you'll have a community of women who truly understand. Because when women come together and share their stories, something powerful happens. We rise, we gain strength, we reclaim our voices, and we move forward, not just surviving, but thriving. Inside Phoenix Rising, you'll get expert guidance, a safe and supportive space, and the kind of sisterhood that changes everything. Enrollment is always open, so join us at kateanthony.com/decided today. That's kateanthony.com/decided, and we will welcome you with open arms. What kind of volume are you guys seeing?
I mean, many tens of thousands of divorces.
Wow.
So we do sort of, I would say 65, 70-ish a year.
Mm-hmm.
Our newer products, this fully guided, more, you know, the mediated divorce, if you will.
Yeah, sure.
We just launched that right at a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I would say maybe we've done 1,000 of them over the past year.
Wow, but
The
that's
thing
still
I'm so excited about there is we're breaking into a market that needs to be broken. The average American family, I read this somewhere, has something like $120,000 in net assets. So, you know, take your house, take your mortgage, like all the things, your bank accounts, you know, add it all up, you know, your pluses are your pluses, your minuses are your minuses, and, you know,
Yeah.
the net assets, right, means 120. And that same average American family, about 12,000 of it is liquid. Access to liquidity, you know, like again, not liquidating the house, not liquidating your car, those types of things. Divorce, like something 45% of divorce in the US costs between $20,000 and $40,000. We're putting average American families literally in liquidity bankruptcy and spending close to 40, 50% in some cases of their entire wealth to just split up their wealth.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it seems like I'd rather keep it and just give the other half to somebody that I don't like as much and move on than just to fight. And really, in most cases, I mean, like 99% of divorce cases settle out of court anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think somebody said something like where it was like 75%, maybe Laura Wasser, my partner, told me this, but like 75% of the work that lawyers do is to prepare for trial.
That's
And
right.
they've got to do that. I mean, like, because the trial could happen,
That's
and so
right.
it's their
That's right.
responsibility to do that. It's just like so unpractical or impractical.
Right. They are always preparing for trial. And then very often, as Laura and I have talked about too, is that when you are in the litigation mindset, you might take that path for your client because it's the most advantageous for you
It
financially as an
is. It
attorney,
is.
right? Laura told me a story on this podcast a couple of years ago. She said that she was doing doing a divorce, and they were there. They were like, they were ready to settle. Everything was fine, and at the very last minute, the opposing counsel came in with something that was
Ridiculous
gonna
thing.
some
Designed
ridiculous thing
to stoke the
that
fire.
and Laura said to her in the hallway afterwards, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are we
Right.
doing this? And she said, well, I haven't made my retainer yet.
Right.
Right.
And not all divorce attorneys are like that. Laura's not
No,
like that.
no. Mm-mm.
I mean, we do work with attorneys. We have a legal network. I mean, they are great for kind of explaining the process, your options, also
Yeah.
doing document review. So you've answered a bunch of questions in a questionnaire on a computer system, and it produces like 200 pages of legal documents. I love to have an attorney read a bunch of legal documents for me. And I'm just like,
Sure.
hey, what does that say? Like, let's
Right.
just read that. An attorney's great for that. So we have like,
Right.
we cover, I think, 75% of the population with our attorney network. And what else divorce lawyers do? And the first thing they find out about you is they do financial discovery.
Right. They know how much money you have.
Right.
That's
So they
right.
know, okay, well, let's fight till this, and then we'll
Yep.
settle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you've got somebody that you really can't trust, and then the whole time everybody's anxiety is going up, everybody's getting madder, nobody's moving
Mm-hmm.
forward. The kids
Mm-hmm.
are used to negotiation pogs. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another mediator said to me once that he was on a panel of litigators and mediators, and I think also collaborative attorneys. And he asked the litigator, well, how do you know when to stop litigating? Like at what point?
Yeah.
And the litigator said, well, when the money runs out.
Right. So
It's
my
very
friend,
telling.
yeah, my friend, who also cuts my hair, who is also divorced, she's like, they're all up there. They're all up there at Bricktops, which is a restaurant in Birmingham. They're all up
Okay.
there at Bricktops, eating lunch and drinking with each other. And then they, you see them in
That's
court,
right.
they're fighting against each other. They're just all friends.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Meanwhile, they're like playing with your lives and your future and all of your assets. So you have this mediation arm, right? So
Yes.
it's a different levels and packages that you have.
That's
So
correct.
there's the highest one is the one with a mediator, but
That's
you
correct.
also have attorneys that you refer out to for document review and things like that. Like they're in your
Yes.
system. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you can just kind of buy an hour or 2 hours with an attorney and it
Okay.
just kind of keeps it low cost.
Through your network. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because we can't answer legal questions. So there's this thing called unauthorized practice of law, which we don't do. And people have legal questions. And I mean, a legal question can be as benign as I live here, can I file here? Or I was married there, can I file?
Yeah.
Do I need to file there? And technically, we can't answer that question for you because we're not attorneys, like we're a software company. But an attorney can answer that for you. We could point you towards documentation that explains the rules, but you gotta read it. We just can't answer the question for you. And so that can be frustrating, I think, sometimes for our customers, like just answer it. We can't because of this, but we do have this option for you. And we've had a couple things where, they thought they wanted to go sort of the mediated way and couldn't. And so then those attorneys, we have a a negotiated rate that is 25% off their standard rate for our
Oh, wow.
customers. So if you
Oh,
do
wow.
flip
Uh-huh.
to contested and need to go for like sole representation and the other spouse gets represented by somebody else, we've already negotiated the rate on your behalf.
Wow. That's really great. That's really
Yeah.
great. Okay. And then what about, do you contract with any coaches or therapists? Do you guys have any of those on your
That
roster for
is
people
on
who get
the horizon for 25. We've had some coaches write for us.
Mhm.
I'm all over wanting to work with marriage therapists. I think that we have a common goal. At some point, people are going to get divorced.
Mhm.
And the way that we help people get divorced sets them up for success
Mhm.
in co-parenting. It sets
Yeah.
them up for success and not having gone through a super traumatic burn each other to the ground divorce. So they're sort of more stable, if you will, theoretically, than they might not be,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
if you go through a 3-year litigated battle, right, where you lose 50% of the family's resources doing it, and it
Right.
is all you think about for 3 years.
And beyond
Right,
often.
right,
Uh-huh.
right. There's going to be a lot of damage that needs to be worked on in that
Mhm.
person afterwards.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
yes, not all marriages can be saved in marriage therapy, and we feel like when they can't, we're really aligned with the therapist about what's best for the people and what's best for the children.
Mhm.
And so I feel like we should be partners. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I really want to start working with marriage therapists.
Mm-hmm. It's hard one because their mandate is like their client is the relationship. And so often they really, all they're doing is trying to save the relationship. But if you have ones that have integrity and are able to sort of say, listen, guys, I don't think this is, or if their clients come to that, decision to be able to give them somewhere to go. That would be great for
Our
you.
marriage therapist really, really helped us stay eyes on the kids.
Yes.
And we want to have a good relationship, a good co-parenting relationship post-divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, that is basically what I kind of, what we used him for, towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, that's how I got the idea of the fully guided divorce.
Mm.
Because it was so helpful. And he wasn't a mediator, right? He was just like
Yeah.
an adult in the room. It
Yeah.
was like, this is
Exactly.
like, you've got to kind of deal that's fair. I mean, to have an agreement on anything or a deal on anything, everybody's got to lose a little bit of something. Everybody's got to win a little bit of something. I mean, that's just how it is. And
That's right.
you have to land the plane on something that is fair and you gotta have to be practical. And again, like back to the kid thing, being focused on really what's best for your kids. I mean, happily, both of us were able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and so it's really set us up well. I mean, we've done holidays together. We weren't public about it until it was totally done, 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 done.
Mm-hmm.
Which I also think was helpful because I didn't have, kind of the peanut gallery weighing in on what they thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's
Sure.
really in the
Yeah.
relationship, but the two people in the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really want to partner with therapists. I think
Mm-hmm.
that they could be a big part of our changing society with that.
I think that the amount of the emotion, I mean, as a coach myself, right? And I specialize in this area that having someone there to hold your hand on the emotional aspect of it saves all the places that things could get derailed. It's often the mental health professional, whether it's the coach or the therapist, who's sort of corralling things back in and going, no, 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 we're not, no, it's okay. We don't need to do that.
Well, yeah, and I think you get so worked up and especially people that are not familiar with courts and everything
Mhm.
else, just
So
being
scary.
served a lawsuit.
Right. It's
I mean,
scary. Yeah,
and a
that's
divorce is a
right.
lawsuit. I mean, just
That's
is.
right.
That's just what it is. Every single
Hmm.
person that's ever gotten divorced, it's a lawsuit. Like that's just,
That's right.
but it feels bad. It's a
Yep.
lawsuit. He's
Yeah.
suing me.
He's suing me, right? He filed for divorce. What have you had to do
Right.
it?
Yeah, right. If you've got kind of an unscrupulous advisor or an advisor that is not necessarily aligned with what you want. I mean, compensation alignment is kind of maybe the most important thing in business. So just making sure, like, if you're going to bonus your employee, you're bonusing them on the result that you really wanted, not some unintended thing. So you got to think all the way around that. Same way when when you're investing with people, making sure that y'all's dollars are aligned. So nobody has a different strategy that you're not seeing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I like to keep things simple. And so everybody kind of rowing their oar to kind of get across the same finish line is kind of how I feel like it's fair. And you're playing checkers and not chess.
So what's the average cost for using your platform? I mean, I know obviously there are different rates and different, is there an average or
Yeah, like
range?
paperwork only is about
Hmm.
$500, and then fully guided is 2,000. And we have like an assistant in the middle, which is we're getting a real person that's helping
Hmm.
you through this.
Hmm.
But essentially it assumes that you are in agreement or can
Right.
can arrive at it does not have mediation. And then there's a filing fee, which is all over the place, dependent upon where you live.
Right.
So, and that's just what the court requires. And so we have a schedule of that on our website. So if you want to look it up, and that's interesting. So I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but I wonder if Indiana is way more expensive to get divorced than say a place that's maybe more liberal like California.
Right. Right. Probably.
It's designed to I think to stop you. So are waiting
Yep.
periods.
Right.
In
Yes.
North
Yes.
Carolina, I think you have to
A
file and
year.
wait a year.
Yeah. You have to be legally separated for a year. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's designed to gut check people. Are you sure you
Hmm.
really want to do this?
Yeah.
Which it's like, are all these things written by people that haven't gotten divorced? Because I sure did spend
Yes.
a ton of soul searching time, and it was beyond not a rash decision for me.
It never is, right? Everyone's like, oh, you just made this decision. It's like, no, I spent 5 years agonizing over this decision before I finally came to it. I do think the waiting period is not a terrible thing in terms of not making legal and financial decisions in the midst of your emotional upheaval about things, right? It's a cooling off period. And I think that's reasonable. However, you've got people who need to get divorced. You've got people who are, victims of domestic violence. You've got people who really don't need any cooling off. They just need this done. And so those cooling off periods can be really dangerous or just sort of prohibitive for some people.
Yeah, I mean, just it's again, it kind of goes to like, should we have the right to control our own destiny, or should
Yeah.
we be beholden in a cookie cutter kind of
Hmm.
overly legislated thing? Are we going to allow adults to have personal responsibility, or are we,
Yeah.
going to helicopter parent them? I mean,
That's right. That's right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's hilarious that so many of these people that want this over legislation of our lives and bodies are also the ones that want smaller government and less government interference. But it doesn't make sense.
I'm for the leave me alone party.
Yeah. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Get out of my body, get out of my uterus, get out of my bedroom. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Liz, obviously I was going to say, where can people find you? Obviously it is divorce.com.
That's
That
right.
is
Yeah,
where
divorce.com.
they can find everything. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. Any final nuggets or anything you want people to know?
Well, I guess one just plug on the societal change thing.
Yeah.
So I know it's kind of bold to say, but I think I grew up in the 80s, and that was when divorce kind of really came on the rise, and
Mm-hmm.
lots of friends whose parents got divorced, and I think it's pretty damaging on them. I
Yeah.
think they were used in lots of ways as negotiation pogs and as an effort on one side or the other not to pay or to get more. And that has like a lot of emotional damage for kids. And if you think about generations having had that happen, right? And then they go into their own marriages with that type of damage, and then we repeat, right? And there's a better way. I mean, divorce is inevitable. We're not pro-divorce. We are so far from pro-divorce. Nothing would make us happier. When you decide to reconcile, we give you a refund. is what we do.
Oh, that's great.
I mean,
Wow.
and
I
that
love that.
happens. I mean, that happens. Like there are a lot of
Mhm.
people that, have too much to drink Saturday night and buy our products and then we refund them on Monday morning. No, no, no shit. Like there's a code for it. But, when the time happens, when it's time to get divorced, there's a better way to do it. We're a modern solution to do it. There are other modern solutions to do it that we think highly of. I mean, I think we're on the same page with a lot of our competitors as well.
Mhm.
If we can start to at scale, right, kind of do divorce in the right way, like we can have like a lot of like societal healing. I'm pretty fired up about that. Some of our other competitors, like Hello Divorce, I mean, I've heard her on your podcast.
Mhm.
I think highly of what they're doing there.
Mhm.
I think we're probably very like-minded on what we
Oh,
do.
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
There are some super sketchy divorce
Mm.
paperwork sites. Okay. Like super duper sketchy. So I would try, like, if you want to like kind of look at like divorce.com, Hello Divorce, online divorce, you can figure out who owns those.
Yeah,
They're not ghosts. So there are
that's
a lot
right.
of pretty sketchy providers out there on the internet that I kind of worry sometimes gives us bad name because people get kind of confused because everybody's got the word divorce in it. So I mean, just really buyer beware. If it looks sketchy, it probably is.
That's right. If you can't figure out who owns it, and yeah, then maybe
If I
that's
can't
a
figure out
reason.
who owns
If
it,
you can't
I
if you
mean,
can't hack
right? Like
it
if I
and
can't
figure
figure it
right.
out with paid LLC searches and who is
Right.
searches, and I mean,
Yeah, right.
these people are ghosts, and I think
That's terrible. That is scary. I haven't heard about
like kind of
that. Oof.
sketchy subscription charges and stuff like that. So just
Mm-hmm.
beware. I mean, I think they're taking
Yes.
advantage of people going through a bad time.
I like the women-owned,
Yeah.
who come on my podcast, options. No, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we appreciate getting to come on and we need
Yeah.
more of us, you
That's
know?
right. That's right. I love it. I love it. Liz,
Yeah.
thank you so, so much for coming on. And everybody go to divorce.com, check it out. It's a wonderful resource. And I'm right there with you with wanting to change the culture. I always say I would be thrilled to be put out of business. Thrilled.
Right. Right.
What I
Right.
do
I
is
mean, of
exhausting.
course. Yeah. Yeah, of
What I
course.
do
I
is
mean,
exhausting. I would love to be put out of business because everybody is just a grown up about it and and empathic about it and unemotional, just like, oh, okay, yeah, this sucks. Now what do we do? Cool. Let's move on to the next chapter, right? I would love that if everybody was.
right. Well, and people need to be coached through the next chapter. I mean, I'm kind of in my next chapter and
Yeah.
I could probably use some coaching.
Yeah. Call me.
It's through coaching and through therapy, right? It's really where positive change is made, not through emotion in a courthouse.
That's right. There's nothing positive comes of that. Oh, good, you won. Like, okay, cool. Congratulations.
Hmm. Hmm.
Did you though?
Right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciated getting to chat with you and always been a fan and loved listen to a bunch of your podcasts when I was going through my own divorce. So it's
I love
fun to get to
that.
be on the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad that makes me happy. That makes my heart happy.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.